you know what? You're never safe anyway, right? The only way to be safe is to know that there is nothing, there's no real danger or threat in this very moment. A lot of the fear that holds us back is the anticipation.
Hello everyone, today we have Carrie with us, Carrie Tan, right, who is a leadership cum self-work coach, right? Welcome. And for some of you who recognize her, she has just said goodbye to another part of her career, and we'll hear more from her today. All right?
Yes. Thank
So,
you for
Carrie,
inviting me, Cassandra.
welcome. It's been how many years since we last met?
I lost count. But I haven't met a lot of my friends for the last 5 years because of the very hectic schedule in politics. So I'm really happy that, I finally have more space and time to catch up with people and to reconnect and share more of what I have to offer with a much wider audience. Impact more lives, I think.
That's
hopefully.
Great. That's great. Yeah. Maybe let's find out a little bit more. Could you share with us what were you doing before you started the leadership self-work coach business?
Okay, so if I just do a summary of the past maybe like 15-20 years of my life.
Sure.
I was just sharing that first out of school I was in advertising, and then later on I went into headhunting. And in 2014 I founded a women's charity, Daughters of Tomorrow, in Singapore. Built up the organization over 5 years, and in 2018 there was an invitation to explore politics. And so in the 2020 general elections in Singapore, I was actually elected to become the Member of Parliament representing Yishun, which is infamous in Singapore. And it's been 5 years of public service. And during that time, I was also running my coaching practice from the side, but really not having that much bandwidth to expand on its work. But I learned a lot and I grew a lot, and also through the works and the stories and the process and journeys of my clients, there's just so much insight that I've gotten that I've decided that I will step away from politics and go full-time to expand my offerings and my work and my skills in the coaching capacity for leaders, for individuals, for families, so that everyone can free themselves from a lot of different kinds of suffering that is really because of the inner struggles and inner conflicts that we have as individuals.
Thank you for sharing that. And before we continue, as a fellow Singaporean, I want to thank you sincerely, because we never know how much of time, effort, sacrifice our politician has for the amount of work. I get visits, right, from our MPs in the area that I live in. I was like, hello, it's Sunday, right? Yeah. What about them in terms of their family time? And then my 2 sons, thankfully, has received awards from the MP also. And those are also weekends. And they come in, because we always celebrate as a family, giving us their time as MP. But what about them? Thank you, really, from the bottom of our heart.
It's really nice and gratifying to hear words of appreciation like this, because I think most people don't realize what being in a public role and a public service role, especially a politician, how much it takes away from you. Of course, it also gives you a lot. It gives you a lot of influence. It gives you the opportunity to make an impact. It gives you a lot of other things, like people treat you like a VIP. But a lot of the things that we had to give up during that time goes unnoticed. It's almost like people have this expectation of politicians that detach them from the fact that they're also human beings with their own families, with their own vulnerabilities and hurts, and all human, right? Yeah. So while I started, posting a little bit about the transition period, about the little joys I get from just spending a Sunday at home with the kids and my partner, and how it's something I really sorely missed for a good 5 years. And I hope it helps people to recognize and to see that politicians are very human too. And if we lost that human part of ourselves then it's inevitable that sometimes they may come across as lacking in empathy, in those moments, because you know what? They haven't had a chance to sit back and feel themselves and to be just a mom or a dad or a wife or a husband again. And most of, I think, the people in the really important jobs don't have that time or the bandwidth to get in touch with their deeper human. They find themselves in a position where they have to deliver solutions, they have to be there for others, they have to give and they have to serve. And in my self-work journey, I realized this truth and this important and profound insight that whatever we do not have within ourselves, like loving and compassion for ourselves, then it's really hard to extend that same loving kindness and compassion to another human being. So even in my 5 years as a politician, I think I was very, very grateful that I'm also, a self-work coach. So I have this level of awareness where I prioritize my own well-being so that I can have all of this goodness within me to extend to other people, and I'm not running on depleted mode. And I realize that's so important for every leader who's running an organization or running a team or managing people, or a dad or a mom who's running a household and bringing up kids, to recognize that.
Yeah, I deeply, deeply agree with you. You can't give what you have not, right? It's just like, for example, when we say, in any disaster like an aeroplane, you have to help yourself first before you help your child, before you help your parents. You have to put on that safety mask first before you give someone else that help. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So let's find out a little bit more about how did you actually chose your path, or the path chose you in terms of your role as a leadership coach and inner works coach.
Well, I think I also stumbled upon it because of the entry into politics and, being an empath. I'm like, I feel people a lot. And when I was in Daughters of Tomorrow, I guess I didn't know it unintentionally, but quite cleverly shielded myself from a lot of the emotional baggages and hurts of other people because I was in an executive role. So I busied myself with fundraising, building the organization, all that. And I had staff and volunteers, befrienders who were tending to the emotional needs and listening to the difficult stories and challenges of the women. So in a while, there was that distance, right? But when I became a politician, I was the direct contact. And there was no shielding from people coming to you with all sorts of anguish, hurts, frustrations, whether it's with policies, or most of the time it's with the difficulties they're feeling in their everyday lives. And I remember, the first few weeks I would just come home after a long day, and Kevin, my partner, would ask, "So how's your day?" And I literally would just start sobbing, like, I was just caring so much. And I realized that this is no way to be an MPE. Like, I don't think I'm in good shape. And if I kept feeling so weighed down and assailed by other people's feelings, and because they're like really tragic stories, and in a whole day you have the really inane stuff and then the really tragic stuff, and it's just so much emotional load. I realized that I needed to do something. And that's when I discovered inner healing. And I think a few months into that of very intensive self-work, inner work, and working through my own triggers and working through my own childhood wounds and working through daddy issues, mommy issues, I realized that it's possible to get to a state where you are quite trigger-free. And you learn to have the necessary boundaries emotionally, energetically, to not get burnt out and have like all your emotional energy sucked out of you. But what's most important is that I realize is we need to heal from our own wounds. And I always say this, right? If you have a cut on your arm, you would go put disinfectant and put a Band-Aid over it.
Yeah.
But the wounds of our hearts are invisible. And 95% of people don't even realize that they have wounds to tend to. And so they don't. But when we don't tend to our wounds, what happens is that as we go about our everyday lives, a word from someone, a way someone reacts to you or interacts with you can have that tremendous power to trigger you, and then you go into an emotional spiral. And some people take days or weeks, some people take, a few hours at least to get out from an emotional spiral, and that's hugely energy draining. But when I realized that when you can heal from your own invisible wounds, then people can be wherever they are and respond in however way they respond, or behave in whatever way they behave, and you would be unperturbed. And you would have that capacity to then provide the safe space, provide the listening ear, provide the empathy that somebody who is sorely needing understanding and support in front of you, that you can tend to them.
So from what I'm hearing from you, Carrie, is that because you chose to serve your residents better in your role as an MP, you discover being a coach by giving yourself better, by healing yourself. And therefore you can give all of who you are with the necessary boundaries and so on and so forth, better to your residents, better to the people that you serve.
Yeah, without draining myself, without burning out. And I used to, joke. Well, I didn't really joke. I meant it. I think I'm like the happiest, most joyous politician, and the least stressed out. By the third year running, I was really seriously enjoying my role and being able to not so caught up and afraid of how people would judge me or the scrutiny. I was just really able to be authentic and connect with the residents and just be with them. And it was very, very fulfilling part. Yeah.
Was it hard for you to make the decision to step out of politics this time, now that you've discovered this part of yourself and what you chose to do with this new competency, skills, and as well as purpose that you have found?
Yeah. Well, it was really not an easy decision, because over 5 years you've grown attachments, and you have a sentimentality towards not just the residents but also the teams and the volunteers in the community that you've helped to build and to shape along the way. So there's a very big part of me that would always love and care for the community. But I also saw that, after many sessions sitting in Parliament, that there are some things that we can shift and change through policy, and it's important work. But I also see, from working with my self-work clients one-on-one, diving deep into what they're really struggling with, and also from my own personal journey, I realized that a large part of finding joy and reconnecting to joy and purpose and satisfaction is not external. It's got to do with the stuff that we're feeling inside. And that's something that policy can't help. But since I've decided, and I've discovered that I seem to have a knack for doing this and helping people to heal and to reconnect with themselves, and to reconnect with joy and purpose and peace in their own lives, I think this is what the remaining gap is. Right? And I thought, this is where I can apply my strengths to as well. And I hope to be able to impact people more directly, because everyone is different and every individual is unique. And the policy that works for the broader macro level may not necessarily tend to the individual who is in need of tending to in their hearts. Yeah.
Another level of calling now.
Well, you could call it that way. Yeah.
Nice. So maybe now, if you could share with us, what are some of the challenges that you faced or you're still facing in setting up your own leadership coach business?
Okay. So this is very interesting, because when I made the decision to step away from politics and to fully focus on this, then what confronts me is, we're doing a startup all over again. And with a very different, at a different stage in life. And I was very aware that for the past 5 years, I've been held up to a pedestal, right? I mean, because of my status and role as a politician, as an MP, people treat me like a VIP. But you're no VIP when you're starting up a business. You basically got to hustle again, right? And you can't assume that people know about you, right? That's so there was this just very short while of reckoning, like, okay, are you prepared to do this again? And I think what was helpful is in knowing that I have done it before, and even though I'm older, right? In your mind, you think, oh, older, less energy, but that may not necessarily be true. To recognize that I now have a very different level of network, of context and resources, and wisdom and experience through the past many years to bring with me to the hustling, right? And I think the starting up over again didn't feel so daunting. Right, but I think some of the very operational things, like, you know, you have a team running things for you, and now you got to go back to what I call a saikang warrior lah. You got to be hands on to do a lot of things. It takes a real you need to prime yourself for that willingness. I think if you held on to the previous VIP status and that expecting people to get things done for you, you're not going to get very far. But I've always been a very hands-on and operational person. I don't think I've lost it. So it's interesting, and it's also exciting to reawaken those muscles. Yeah, and I think having the humility to know that maybe, you know, you could benefit from someone else teaching you, training you, and the humility to relearn again is really important. So I've actually invested in a sales coach, right? And and just doing that awareness of just because you've been important for the last 5 years doesn't mean that everybody will see you that way, because if you are going to forge new markets and be sharing about what you're offering to the rest of the world who have no idea who you are, then you got to be, you know, thick-skinned enough and humble enough to make that first move.
You answered my next question. I wanted to ask you, what are mindset, attitude, and skills that you need to embrace or learn and to be successful in your, or overcoming the challenges, right? And you talk about, you know, the willingness. You talk about, you know, being willing. You talk about being humble, being aware. Would you say there's anything else that, in terms of mindset, attitude, that you need to embrace now that you've started on another new journey?
Well, what's been really helpful for me, again, is because of my own I think strengths and knowledge in self-work, is the awareness thing is one thing, right? But you can be aware, but you may not be able to overcome it. So I think the very deep level of understanding I have about how emotions can drive us and how fear amidst uncertainty and amidst changes in your life and changes in the wider reality, how that can throw you into a state of uncertainty, fear, insecurity. All these are like monsters, you know, that has real potential to trip you up. For you to feel disheartened, to feel unable, and to doubt yourself, doubt the market, doubt everything around you. So what I've found greatly helpful was the fact that through the self-work and through this journey of developing my own consciousness and awareness and deep understanding of how emotions drive us, I'm able to catch those micro emotions as they come and know what to do with them so that they have no chance of, you know, in a way, tripping me up. Yeah, and that's actually the topic of a book that I'm working on with my co-author, Professor Andreas Rahaso. And it's, you know, he's amazing. I love that I met him because my vocabulary tends to be quite intuitive and esoteric, but he's putting the science language to everything that I've been practicing and teaching and imparting. And it's all neuroscience, right? How we understand the role our thoughts and our emotions create patterns of behaviors, and how we can actually have mastery over that to transform that so that your mind and your emotions work for you and not driving you, you know, into something that, you know, that's unproductive or unconstructive.
Very good. Carrie mentioned the word fear, and fear in certain contexts is quite negative, right? But as you mentioned it, fear can be induced or fueled to help you achieve something positive.
Oh, yes.
But that's when you are aware of it and you work on it and you work on yourself, because you know that when fear comes, it can trip you off.
Yeah.
But now you see fear in such a ways that you can use it to fuel you towards your desired outcome.
Oh, yes.
But you need work.
You
right?
need work.
You need work.
Yeah. And this work of, whether it's fear, whether it's frustration, whether it's anger, whether it's doubt, all these are emotions that have the ability to hold you back, slow you down, or stop you from moving forward, right? And it's like if you're swimming in it, you don't see yourself drowning. But when you can elevate your view and your perspective and your awareness and consciousness to see that, hey, there's a lake and someone's in the water and the person is struggling, but when you're there, you know exactly what to tell the person to do. But when you're in the water, you have you're flailing because you're in it,
Yeah.
So this part of consciousness, awareness, elevation is so hugely powerful to anybody who wants to regain control over their lives in a world where they're constantly feeling like they're going out of control.
It sounds like when you are in water, right, you need to in some ways detach, right? The enmeshment being that in the fear, in the anxiety, in the messiness does not help you make better decisions or respond in the way that you want. So the ability to detach and the ability to detach comes from being aware.
Yes.
Right? Then you can detach, and then from a distant afar, you can see and you can choose something different. Sounds like it?
It's exactly that. But of course, I also recognize that, if someone has been in a highly dysregulated state in terms of their nervous system, chronic stress, chronic tension, chronic, always go and do, they may not find so easy to detach themselves because it requires that our nervous system is on an even keel in order for us to be able to see what we're going through. Often you see the people who are struggling, who end up with chronic illnesses and diseases, is because for the longest time, they've been living with a very high-strung of state of their nervous system, and they don't realize it. Right? So the work, that awareness work, actually can really only come in when somebody is willing to just say, I'm going to slow down and I'm going to help my body return to a neutral state first. Then that helps people to get into that, being able to detach themselves more. Yeah, so that's that kind of work. So, people who are offering a lot of stress relieving, somatic healing approaches and all that kind of stuff is really helpful. Yoga is really helpful, right? As long as you're not doing it compulsively.
That's another cycle that you go into, right?
So mindfulness, meditation, all that plays a huge part in helping to regulate our nervous system so that our bodies are then able and more receptive to seeing things differently. Yeah.
On that note, would you say the body, as in our physical body, is the first part to realize, or is the cognitive part? I'm throwing her star question. Which one will you say come first, or both?
Actually, the body responds immediately before our brain even processes it. Right?
But are we aware?
We're not aware. That's why I say the brain is not aware, ma. The brain is the slowest. the cognitive recognition for it to come to your explicit awareness is the slowest. But meantime, your body's already adjusted itself. It's already pushing out the hormones and the stuff that is trying to get you to cope, right? To rebalance. And when you're constantly attacking it with stresses, it's just constantly fighting the stresses, that's when you get the imbalance. And most people, like I said, they go years without realizing that they are highly strung. Some people say, oh, I have great stress tolerance. I'm like, hello, yeah, your brain's telling you that, but your body is certainly not showing that. And by the time you go to, the hospital because something's broken down, then you're finding out too late because your body's already noticing and trying to deal with and cope with all those stresses that you've been loading on it. Yeah.
So the body comes first. but be attentive and being aware to what your body is actually calling out for you before here.
Yeah, I think most of us are culturalized or acclimatized to this badge of honor, like oh, I don't need much sleep, or I can power through any pain, you know. And women going to work even though they're having really bad menstrual cramps, all these are a culture of ignoring pain signals. It doesn't mean that we've become healthier or we are stronger or we have been immunized. It just means that we have stopped recognizing and listening to what our body is telling us. And we try to do other things, like we take painkillers, we take a lot of chemicals, and some people, you know, try to ignore that pain by working themselves more, right? And showing up, and that's not giving your body time to rest. It's just pumping more adrenaline into your system.
Avoidance, right?
It's avoidance, and we have a culture of that, a culture of avoiding, of not wanting to talk about pain, not wanting to face it because it's seen as weak. Like if you are not capable of clocking only 5 hours of sleep as a CEO, then you're not good enough. I mean, come on.
It's quite sad, isn't it?
It's quite sad. I think if you're really great at running your company, you should be able to clock in 8 hours and have the company run smoothly, because that's healthier.
So redefining success, redefining competency, redefining leadership seems like what you are.
And redefining what we understand to be strength, right? Like being able to embrace the fact that your body needs care, you need care, your heart needs care, is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of recognizing that I'm human, I have a machine and an engine to run, and it needs maintenance. I think recognizing that is just about the strongest and most, you know, an act of leadership one can do for oneself. Yeah.
When you mention that, it brings about this visual that I always show to my executive clients. So a lot of people say this is strength, right? Because you take, you know, but I say no. When you're free, meaning you are allowing yourself to open up, this is more strength. Why? Because it takes so much more. Because when you're clenched like that, you're tight already, right? When you have to force yourself to open, which is to release, it takes more strength. And then every time I show this to my clients, they are like, especially those that is, you know, not on the pathway to learning, huh? I say, yeah, but if you seriously think about it, how entrenched we have been in terms of strength, in terms of leadership, that this actually takes more strength.
A lot of people I've met living high-powered lives are so used to being strong in this manner. It's like a rock, right? But over, you know, the centuries, right, so many philosophers and teachers and gurus have said, be soft like water. You know, if you're a rock sitting in the river, you're not going anywhere. You're just there, and you're just there. You're stagnant. You're not really growing. Well, maybe over centuries you start accumulating more, and then you start getting bigger. But you're not going places. But water runs, water flows. Water goes to where it needs to be, and it meanders, and there's no resistance. When we think about strength as something so strong and immovable and immutable, what it also means is that you're causing a lot of resistance in your own lives, in your own companies, in your own teams.
In your own body too, yeah?
Yes, and you're like tense and like you need to go. I mean, like the massage industry is making a lot of money, right? Because everyone's going to get stiff nails, looking at the phone all day, and we just forget to be soft. Softness is not weak. Softness helps you to go places, just like water. Yeah.
I remember tenderness can be such a strength. Right? I see a lot of great leaders. Mother Teresa, her tenderness is so strong. So strong. And suddenly remember her.
You know, it's funny you bring her up because she is one of the key persons or characters that I read about when I was really young. I was very, very inspired by her and her selfless and compassionate giving heart. So yeah, she was actually one of the catalysts. I mean, her story, having read her biography, was one of the catalysts that put me on the path to, founding Daughters of Tomorrow. Yeah. And I think we need to bring this softness and this tenderness to places where it's not commonly encountered, like in the corporate world, right? Like in boardrooms. Because we've lost touch with how people are feeling. And if you're a multinational and you're trying to sell something to some people, the way you brand a product, the way you brand a company, if you stop understanding what your customer feels, and I think you will have to spend a lot of money on data, which is good, data is good, but all that data and all those information we're trying to get is to try to get a pulse on what people want and how people are feeling. And there's no better way to do that than to actually reconnect with what makes you human, so that you can understand the data not just as cold facts, right? But really connecting with the people that you're trying to reach. I think that makes a huge difference.
Sounds like you're mentioning in the age of AI, where we are definitely in, and I don't see any stoppage anytime now, that the ability to understand, to connect in terms of emotions from human to human, with this acceleration of data, expansiveness of data coming to us, the ability to connect, the ability to say, I'm human, you're human, is actually very, very much more important than ever before.
That cannot be commoditized.
I agree with you.
And because whatever can be commoditized can be superseded by a competitor, right? And I think what's going to give companies the edge over any other competitor is how soon and how well they reconnect with what makes us human. That AI can't do, right? AI is learning from past experiences, but human beings are unique in the sense that we are constantly forging a new future every day, a new possibility every day. And if we only rely on past data, how competitive are you going to be? How do you get ahead by knowing what people are feeling ahead of before they even realize it? I think this is something that a lot of the intuitive people are good at. Even in MIT, they have this, training, right, called Theory U, and they talk about presencing, and they talk about what is emerging into the future. And whatever is emerging is not what the AI can detect, right? But the ability to be in the present moment, to anticipate the future and to craft that future is a unique human ability. And I think the faster we get on that to understand how that works, the better you future-proof yourself.
Everybody, please take note. The future predictor has spoken. Please get understanding your own emotions, and that's where you can also understand others better. I always say this to a lot of our executive clients. If you have very little trust in yourself, right? Trust is a very intangible, very soft, but it's such a powerful core thing in all of us, because when you have that trust, you're a lot more confident, right? You have that psychological safety. And only when you have that trust within yourself, then it's easier for you, because you know what visibility is like. For you to build trust with your team members, for you to build trust with your organization, and to be able to sell.
I can give you a very inane but very real thing that shifted for me when I rebuilt trust in myself, right? I used to get invited to a lot of events to be guest of honor and all that, and sometimes they will ask that I give an address or a speech. And in the past, before self-work, I would agonize over what to say. Like, is my content going to be relevant and meaningful? I would take hours to write a speech to show at an event for 5 minutes. After I've done the self-work, after I worked through a lot of things that took trust away from me from, a young age performative that I didn't even realize. And I rebuilt that trust in myself. when people ask me to go to event and say, would you be okay to do a speech? I say yes, because instead of hours, I no longer doubt myself. I no longer worry about, am I going to sound relevant or meaningful or smart enough? I say yes, because I could just formulate what I want to say for 20 minutes, and I'm just going there, I'm just being. So from hours, from a simple task, not as simple, from a task that used to take hours, I have that confidence to say, I can spend 20 minutes on this and then I can just go.
That is so much of returns and ROI and in terms of transformation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how do you measure that? I mean, a lot of companies that we work with, they say, so what's the ROI for investing in this type of, learning and development for my team, blah, 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 blah.
It's the amount of time that you save, your team save from overthinking. Most of the time we spend too much time on a task because of self-doubt, because of overthinking. And then in many companies, they have paralysis by overanalysis.
Yep.
The overthinking brain. People overthink because they're not sure. They're not sure because they have doubt. They have doubt because fundamentally, within themselves, once upon a time, the ability to trust in themselves was taken away. If we are able to heal at the root level, everything of that goes. So I can say yes more easily because showing up at 5 minutes does not take hours anymore, right? I have so much more free time, right, to work on the stuff that actually I enjoy doing, to say yes to more possibilities and more invitations and more opportunities. And you know what? When I show up at event, I just speak off the cuff. People are like, wow, she's so authentic, she's so real, instead of like coming and then like doing this scripted thing. And then I'm like, you know what? Gone with the scripted speeches. Sometimes people would be very nice and they draft it for me. I'm like, okay, these are helpful. Like, I know you want me to mention this, I'm happy to do it. But I don't overthink it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to talk about what moves me today that's relevant to this context. And you'll be surprised. So little, much less effort, much better response.
Ladies and gentlemen, especially team leaders, please listen to this and understand the effect of the intangible over the tangible.
We overperform, we overthink, and then we try to perform so much to what people think we should be or what we think people think they want us to be.
So complicated, yeah.
Yeah lah. So, just cut all that nonsense. Because when you are grounded and you reconnect to trust and to know that you're there for a reason and people have invited you there for a reason and you have so much to offer just being yourself. I think that is like, that just totally changed my life.
And so much more rewarding for you, fulfilling, and also for them, right? Nice. So, Carrie, what would you say is the future that you envision for yourself? And what are some of the mindset and skill set that you are embodying or have already embodied to achieve that future?
Well, I am in this phase where I'm experimenting with a lot of things, but all with the same goal and purpose, which is to help people develop that awareness and understanding of how important it is to tend to our hearts, whether it's in the corporate sector, whether it's in families, whether it's in communities, in organizations. Because I think when we don't do that, then we're not actually showing up at our best, whether we are leading in the company as a CEO or a team leader, or leading our families and being there for our children. So I've actually, entered into a collaboration with a travel agency, and we are going to be going on tour, family bonding tours, so that dads and moms and their kids can have a great time on a family vacation, but also interwoven with workshops and facilitation to learn about social emotional awareness, to learn about deeper communication, to create deeper bonds with one another, so that they go back home not just with like fun memories and videos of the stuff that that's fun and the photographs, but also a deeper appreciation and understanding of one another, and the tools to continue having meaningful, enriching, and I think conversations that help to build the child up. And this is really from having worked with clients one-on-one, right? And even very high-performing people, they're suffering because of stuff that happened to them when they were kids. I call them micro traumas because not because they don't have parents that love them, they have, seemingly very normal, functional families, but a lot of the unmindful ways that our parents of the previous generation respond to us, interact with us, can cause micro traumas that chip away at a person's self-esteem and trust in themselves and self-belief and all that kind of things. And I think it's going to be so fulfilling to help families heal, to help couples forge a deeper intimacy with one another, and to have healthy love proliferate families, and for children to grow up with resilience and to thrive, and I'm very worried about the current trend of mental health issues amongst youths and the suicide rate. So I think that's going to be a very important piece of work. And no matter how a person, discovers the importance of tending to hearts for themselves, they will bring it to wherever they go, right? To their companies, to their organizations. And I hope that in the not too distant future, every company will invest in any kind of self-care support for their staff members and for their leaders that focuses on equipping them with the tools and techniques to tend to their own hearts. I think that's going to make such a huge difference in individuals' performance, in companies' performance, and the way we relate to one another in societies. We're going to have healthier families, healthier companies, and a healthier society because we're doing this work of tending to hearts.
I'm going to, also add on to the intention for that to happen, because I think the ripple effect, the ripple positive effect of that is going to be really exponential.
It is. Recently, I was invited by a friend who runs active aging centers in Singapore, which are places where, you send the elderly for daycare because their kids are busy at work, etc. And because he's gone through his own personal discovery and healing journey, he understands how important it is that his staff also has access to support. Because, they have membership and they have day in, day out, they are working with these seniors. And it's inevitable during, in an aging population like Singapore, that you're going to have some seniors passing away. And if the staff tending to the seniors are not supported and their hearts are burdened with episodes and layers of grief, of guilt, of doubt, and of blame, they're not going to be able to do this work in a sustainable manner. They're not going to be healthy in their minds and their hearts. So he's invited me to do grief facilitation for his staff, and I thought, that is wonderful. That is an example of how a leader who understands and who has experienced healing then goes on to make it available for the people that he's working and he's managing, that he's leading.
This is beautiful. This is really beautiful to know that there are leaders who are intentionally and consciously choosing something to care for the mental, physical and psychological and emotional health of the team members so that they can perform better, right?
I think more leaders need to recognize that this is not about employee wellness or well-being. This has direct impact on your performance. And in this case, it's a risk management measure. Because what's going to happen when your staff, because they're overwhelmed, they blow up or they behave out of character, and it has a cascading effect, right? It disrupts the operations. It can create a situation where it brings huge reputational risk for your company, especially if they're frontline. This is caring for your staff and making sure that they're optimum, they're okay and healthy and optimally performing and feeling okay and great emotionally is like the insurance that people are forgetting that they need to buy.
It sounds like a lot of business leader needs to hear this, that investing in your people is not a cost. it's a great investment of returns.
Yeah.
Amazing. And what would you say some of the mindset and skill set that you would need to reach that future that you just shared?
Well, I think being able to walk into a corporate setting and be able to articulate this to people whose mind space may not be there. So translating what I'm offering into something that people can understand. So communication skills, right?
Yep.
So I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, we also have this like, oh, you really need this, but we may not be, like,
Thank you.
But what is this, right? And we're not able to speak the language of our customers, then they don't understand what you're trying to sell. And so I realized that no matter how much I have and how much depth I have to offer in terms of the coaching and the training, it's always about bringing it to a manner that's accessible for people to understand what it is. So, I'm like, if you tend to your heart, you can save a lot of time, right? If you tend to your staff's hearts, you can reduce your attrition and you reduce the possibility of something blowing up in your face. So I think translating that into business speak is a new thing for me, because not new lah, it's another muscle I need to awaken, because I've stepped away from the corporate sector for a long time. Politics, right, is very different.
Yep.
Right, and even before running a non-profit charity is very different. So I think getting back into this corporate setting and connecting with people who are profit-centric is going to be a new learning curve for me. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll get them very, very soon. Knowing how adaptable you are, seeing how many different versions of you, that you have become.
Oh, and thanks for bringing that up. I realized that one thing that trips a lot of people up is our expectations of how things should be, right? So just because I am very giving and I believe that businesses should be for good, then if I have that judgment towards CEOs whose minds are full of just the bottom line, the top line, I'm going to create distance with them. How do we build that trust if I'm judging them for being profit-centric, right? So you can't have your own value system be in the way, right? No matter what your own beliefs and your own values are, I think becoming egoless is the key to being able to work with and to resonate with people who are very different from you. And I think that is an important skill that I'm constantly still honing, and it takes very mindful practice every day. Yeah. So again, mindfulness.
Nice. Last but not least, there are many, many females out there, right? That is either embarking in terms of change, right? Careers, roles, and some are embarking onto maybe a new potential business. They have been, corporate employees for all their life. What advice would you give them?
Okay. I found that a lot of women, as with myself, we suffered from undeservingness, right? We often don't value ourselves how we should. We have a much lower opinion of ourselves than how other people see us. And because, historically, evolutionarily, women are, in a way, hoarders, because we have to conserve resources to make sure that if
There's enough.
If the hunt doesn't come in today, the kids still have food. So we're so used to conserving resources. One of the key things I've had to break through in order to get on my path of being, an entrepreneur and asking the price to make my business sustainable is really to break free from this conserving mindset to an investing mindset. And it's not about, looking at, how little resources I have and how much I need to keep them so that there can be another day. It's about channeling your resources to the stuff that's going to grow you, that's going to expand you, that's going to expand your opportunities, expand your skills for you to be able to get more. Right? So this leap from conserving to investing, from scarcity to growth, is one of the biggest things that has happened on my journey. And I think I'm so confident to just go experiment and, invest in a lot of things to help myself grow into this new phase, because I've worked through that. But previously, like if you ask me to pay a few $100s for something that's going to help me learn a new skill, to do something that I didn't know how to do before, I'll be like, wait, is it selfish? Do I really need this? Can I afford it now? Blah, 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 blah. But you know what? You can make that back. You can make that back by many folds. But if you continue to conserve it, you're not going to grow. You're not going to have the opportunity to leverage on what you already have to grow what you're going to have.
It's so apt because in the world that we are living right now, things are moving so fast, right? Things are changing constantly, macro, micro, in every way that we know. So learning, relearning, unlearning is so, so important. And someone, I remember one of my LinkedIn coach, she asked me, she said, can you teach people how to learn? Because a lot of people are so fixated in the way they want to learn and is willing to learn. And therefore, it then paralyzes them in the future that they envision, because they're always stuck. I will only take that leap when I have every type of information, when I feel safe. But in the world that is constantly changing,
you know what? You're never safe anyway. Right? The only way to be safe is to know that there is nothing, there's no real danger or threat in this very moment. A lot of the fear that holds us back is the anticipation. I actually went to do like roller coaster rides and realized that once you're on the roller coaster, you're doing it, you're screaming. That screaming, that fear is a lot less compared to when you were getting up and you're deciding whether you're going to go on that roller coaster ride, right? So yeah, like this overthinking is the most crippling thing for anybody who wants to start and to run a thriving business. Yeah, the sooner you get rid of that, the sooner you get rid of the insecurities, the sooner you get rid of the anxiety, and you just go, whatever action that you take is going to grow you in some ways that you don't even realize. It's always better than not doing. That's all I can say.
Action over inaction. Action over paralyzation.
Yes. Oh, but then action, some people action, they never think, stop to think.
No, we're not
so
advocating that.
It's a
balance.
Fine
Yeah.
balance.
It's a balance.
It's just being aware and just knowing that you already have what it takes.
Yeah.
And everything that you're imagining that's going to happen that could go a bad way is just that is your imagination.
Fear. What? False evidence appearing real, right?
Yeah.
There's an acronym for it, isn't it? False evidence appearing real. Right. With that, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you.
So nice.